Good afternoon and welcome to Checking In With here at Lashings World. I'm delighted today to be joined by a legend from all the way over in Antigua, a man who took 630 international wickets, playing 274 international matches. At one stage, he was the greatest bowler in the world. We're delighted to be joined by the legend that is live from Antigua, Sir Curtly Ambrose. Good afternoon, Curtly. How are you doing? How's it been for you in lockdown?
Hello, David. It's been okay for me here in Antigua. I'm home most of the time because of COVID. There's no place to go, nothing much to do, no music to play. So I'm
Mm.
basically home. Sometimes I get bored being at home all the time, but it has to be done. And, so I don't have much of a problem with it.
Well, I know it's very frustrating, and same for all of us. And hopefully, certainly here in the UK, we're hoping to be back playing cricket again and having some big crowds and some big lunches in the summer with Lashings. Just talking about cricket, though, and I'd like to just ask you just a few questions about your career. Your career. So, with cricket, you were a late starter to cricket, I understand. Am I correct in saying that you actually made your international debut just a very few years after actually playing cricket for the first time?
Yes, I was never really into cricket that much. As a youngster growing up in Antigua, we all dabble in just about every sport. But for me, I've always, wanted to be a professional basketball player. And if I couldn't get that done, I wanted to play football, as in soccer, you
Excellent.
know. But cricket was never really on my list. And but my mother, who is a cricket fanatic, she was the one who forced me into playing cricket. And I started playing for my club Sweets here in Antigua in 1984. And obviously, David, I was quietly hoping it didn't work because I didn't want to play cricket. But I
Wow.
did it just for my mom's sake and, of course, fellow villagers. I used to play a lot of tennis ball cricket as well in the pastures and in the open field. So a lot of villagers figured I had the potential to be international cricketer. I didn't think so. However,
Right.
I represented Sweet for the first time in 1984, and in 1985, I made the Antigua national team. And a year later, in 1986, I was on the Leeward Islands team. And then 2 years later, in 1988, I was in the West Indies team. So within 4 short years of not wanting to play cricket, I suddenly found myself an international cricketer. And as they say, the rest is history.
The rest is history, and it's incredible to think in those early days with cricket, you could take it or leave it, and what you went on to achieve in the game. It's incredible that was the case. And I understand before you signed for Northamptonshire in the UK, you had a couple of seasons playing club cricket. In Lancashire, in Cheshire, in the Liverpool area, took 80 odd wickets the first season, over 100 wickets in the second season. You got a taste of getting out English batsmen early doors in your career.
Yes, I came over to England for the first time in 1986 on a Sir Viv Richards cricket scholarship, in tandem with Jeff Moss, and I played for the Chester Boughton Hall Cricket Club. Yes, I took 80 odd wickets. My good friend, Winston Benjamin, he was there the previous year in 1985, and he took over 100 wickets. And
Wow.
up to this very day, he kept reminding me that I fell short. But the second year in 1987, I went to play for a club called Haywood in the
Haywood,
Central
yes.
Lancashire League.
Mm.
And I tell you what, I took 115 wickets then, which I thought would have been more than enough to win the championship.
You'd have
We didn't
thought
even
so.
come close. We came mid-table, you
What
know. So yeah,
was going
so
on?
I don't know. We weren't even close. But I enjoyed my both stints, and I was spotted by Northamptonshire then, and then I signed for
Yeah.
them for the following year in 19. I signed for them
The 89,
for
was it?
19. Well, I signed for them to start play in 1988.
Okay,
However, I was selected for the West Indies team
sure.
that very year and toured England. So my
Yes,
North Hands career started in 1989.
absolutely. Well, if we move on to your test career, and one-day international career, but your Test career, I could sit and chat all afternoon about so many great performances and wins and series wins. So I'd just like to sort of talk about one or two experiences. So firstly, against Australia, I think 92, 93, that series there, you took 33 wickets at an average of 16.42, including that great spell of 7 for 1 run. I think Tony Cozier called it the greatest devastating spell of all time. When you look at that spell, taking 7 wickets for 1 run, where does it stand in terms of your favourite spells, your favourite performances?
It does stands right up to the top as well, because I mean, taking 7 wickets for 1 run in a spell of 30 or 32 deliveries is basically unheard of. You can only script that thing in a movie, really.
Mm,
So that to me is very, very special. But would I rate it as my number one spell? I would say no, because the pitch at Perth was conducive for fast bowling. It was
sure.
perfect for fast bowling. So it was the first morning of a test match. I was under no pressure. Australia won the toss and elected to bat first, which surprised us because of the nature of the pitch. But there was no pressure. Everything was just normal. So I wouldn't rate that as my number one. It was a special moment, yes, because 7 for 1, but it wouldn't be my number one if I were to choose.
Okay. Okay. So what would be your number one, would you say?
Well, three three spells comes to mind, and the first one was when we beat South Africa when they just came back into international cricket after 22 years. That one-off Test match against South Africa in Barbados, they had us really down and out, needing I think it was 79 runs to win on the last day with 8 wickets in
Mhm.
hand. And it was a lot of pressure situation. One, they were just coming back in international cricket, and we were the number one team in the world. We couldn't afford to lose to South Africa. And that was a lot of pressure situation. And Courtney Walsh and myself, we bowled them out that final morning. They only scored 20 odd runs, I think it was, and lost badly in the end. I took 6 wickets, Courtney Walsh took 4. We were the one who did all the bowling. That was a special moment. And then
Mm.
the other 2 moments I could also call, I don't think you would want to hear them, David.
I think I've got a clue where this is going.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Taking 8 for 45 against England in Barbados again in
Yeah.
1990, when
Yeah.
England had us on the run. We had to
Yeah.
win that test match to draw a level
Before the
with
series.
one
Yeah.
test to go in Antigua. So the pressure was on, and to have taken 8 for 45 to win that game was a special moment. And then, of course, in Trinidad against
Yeah.
England again, when we bowled them out for 46, that was another special occasion. They had to get 193, I think it was, with 15 overs on the fourth afternoon and all of the
Yeah.
fifth day. So they
Yeah.
had more than enough time to get those runs, and we didn't want to lose. And I remember my good friend and captain, Richie Richardson, saying to us, if we get 3 or 4 wickets that evening for not too many runs, we could set ourselves up to winning the game the next day. Lo and behold, England lost 8 wickets for 40, I think it was, that same afternoon. And the fifth day was just a formality, really. I mean, so those 3 instances I would put ahead of the 7 for 1 because the pressure situation, and how the game stand at the time. So I would put those ahead.
I remember watching that fourth day's play, 4,000 miles away from Trinidad here in the UK, kind of behind sort of two hands, sort of hiding my eyes. And I remember the morning of that game, Alex Stewart had told Sky Sports reporters that on that fourth day, we'll be okay today, is what he told the Sky Sports news reporter. And then I feel many hours later, at the end of the day, he was the last man out on that night. He was the eighth wicket down. I think they were 40 for 8 overnight. But I just remember being scared to death of you watching that spell here. And it, like you say many times, you said nothing on the field, but I mean that stare was deadly. I mean, where did that stare come from?
It wasn't something I practiced or rehearsed. From ever since I was a young boy growing up in suites here in Antigua. because that's the name of my village where I'm from, Sweets. You
Sure.
know, as long as I'm competing, it doesn't matter what I'm competing in. I've always been aggressive, and my aggressive instincts always comes out naturally. So for me to transfer that into international cricket was very easy because that was just the way I am from since I was small. I don't like losing, so my competitive juice and my aggressive nature always comes out whenever I'm competing. So it was natural for me, really. It wasn't rehearsed or practiced. It was just a natural thing from deep within.
I want to ask you, just going back and talking about Australia before, and you had a real rivalry with Australia and a certain Steve Waugh. There's many stories about you and Steve Waugh, or many kind of words been written. But interestingly, I found out that you asked Steve Waugh to write the foreword for your autobiography. How did that come about?
Yes, before I get into that, yes, I've had some serious rivalry against Steve Waugh, West Indies versus Australia. He's one of those cricketers that I have a lot of respect for. Why? He's as tough as they come. He may not be the most elegant looking player, but he played within his limitations and a very, very, very tough customer. He always looked like you can get him out at any moment, but it's not always the case. Very, very tough competitor. Have a lot of respect for him. And I think the respect is mutual. In terms of the autobiography, when we did it, myself and Richard Sydenham,
Mm.
you know, I quickly said to him that I have so much respect first for the late Richie Beno. I said to him, I would like Richie Beno to do my forward. And then he said, that's a good idea. And then immediately I said, you know what? Maybe we should ask Steve Waugh as well. I can't remember if he was the one who suggested or I did. I can't remember. But any event, I said, yes. You know, I think I will ask him to do it because of a rivalry, and it would be a nice touch, you know, to the book. So Richard reached out to Steve Waugh, and he readily accepted. And everything that was written in the book, the foreword is exactly what he wrote. I never altered it. I never did anything to it. And I was so pleased for him to do that. And he adds a nice touch to the book.
Absolutely. Now, just looking at the great bowling partnerships of all time, yourself and Courtney Walsh. I talked to Courtney regularly on WhatsApp, and he's just a fantastic guy. I met him last year, played for Lashings with us, and had some great chats with him. And he's an absolutely fantastic guy, and having you with us was superb as well. But just how much of an advantage was it to you as a fast bowler to have a partner like Courtney Walsh? You played, it's a miracle, really, 94 test matches together. Just what an advantage is it to have a strike partner as good and as lethal as Courtney Walsh?
It was an absolute pleasure and a joy having my great friend Courtney Walsh at the other end. We were very similar in the way we bowled, even though most people always figured I'm the aggressive one. Yes, I'm aggressive because I show it. But
Yeah.
Courtney is very aggressive as well. He doesn't show it, but inside, I know he's an aggressive person, probably more aggressive than I was, only because I show it. Why people will say Ambrose is always aggressive, but to play alongside him, it was a pleasure, a joy. I mean, because we talk about partnership in terms of batting when we talk about cricket, and most people tend to overlook the partnership in terms of bowling. And what made Courtney and I so special is that one, we never competed against each other. We never tried to outdo each other. If it's his day where he's taking wickets, my job was simply to make sure I keep the pressure from the other end. And if it was my day to take wickets, he'll do the very same, maintain that pressure. So that is why we were so successful. There was no rivalry, never tried to outdo each other, nothing like that. And we understood each other very well. We don't have to having to say much, and that was really why we were so successful.
Just moving away from cricket, you're well known after cricket and also a bit during cricket, your ability and your love for music. Where did that all come from, and where does it got you to now?
Well, as an Antiguan, music was a part of our upbringing. We just listen to the radio all the time, listen to music from all over the world. And then being Antiguan. I mean, if you're a West Indian, generally, David, and you don't like music, then you're not a real West Indian. You know, we just are naturally rhythmic people. We walk with rhythm, you know, it's just about rhythm. And music has been a serious part of my life. And one of the things I've said to myself at the end of my cricketing days, I want to be a musician. I want to join a band and play music. But even before that, when I was still playing, my good friend Richie Richardson, he has been playing music long before I did. He used to walk with his guitar on tours to relax from the pressures of international cricket. And before he became captain, we were roommates. So he had his guitar strumming away, and I used to use a table or a desk to play like a drum just to accompany him with music, and we sing along just to ease the stress from international cricket. And one day, I said, we were in Birmingham, and just around the corner from the hotel we were staying was a guitar shop. And I said to Richie, I've always loved the bass guitar. Let me make that clear. The bass guitar to me is a fantastic instrument, and I just can't see any music without a bass. So I've always loved the bass. And I said to Richie, you know what? I'm going to buy me a bass guitar. I've never played the instrument before, never touched it, know nothing about bass playing, but I love the instrument. And Richie and I went around the corner, bought this bass guitar, and Richie was the one who started to show me the notes. This is a C, this is an F, this is the G, whatever. He was the first one to do that. And then when I came back to Antigua after the tour, I have a very good friend who plays bass in a band here. I went to him and asked him to write out all the notes on a piece of paper for me so I could learn the notes on the bass. And that's how we started. And then it just went from strength to strength. And I'm now playing in a band, doing quite well, do a little singing as well. So music has been a part of my life from ever since.
Excellent. Well, it's one of our ambitions is to get yourself and the guys over, and hopefully Richie as well, get you over here to the UK at one of our Lashings games, maybe have a festival or a party afterwards and get you guys with us. It'd be absolutely fantastic if we could do that. And just moving on to Lashings, you've just touched on Richie Richardson there. How did you get involved in Lashings World 11?
It was Richie again who called me. I mean, after I retired from cricket in 2000, Richie was already then a big part of the Lashings setup.
Yes.
And he rang me up. It could have been 1 or 2 years after my retirement. Could have been the very next year. He rang me up and said, listen, I need to come over and play a few games for Lashings. And I said to him, man, Richie, you know, I just retired from cricket. I just want to take a break. I don't really interested in cricket anymore. I just need to get away from cricket for a while. Having played for so many years, you know. And he said, no, man, it's a lot of fun. You know, you meet guys who play the games. It's a lot of fun. It's nice. It's relaxed. There's no pressure. And of course, Richie and I, excuse me, Richie and I, good friends as we are, I find it very difficult to say no to him. You know, so he was the one who got me over to Lashings. And I must say, I did, you know, enjoy myself, you know, meeting fellow West Indians who I've played with, guys from other parts of the world, Australia, England, you know, and just reminisce on our battles and stuff. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. And we had you back playing with us last year, and I'll always remember we had played a game just outside Northampton, and the crowd really turned out for you, and it was a really fantastic day. And hopefully, if we can get things into safer times, we'll have you back with us next season in 2021. So, just want to move on. You mentioned there you talked about Richie Richardson, and we've just inducted Richie as the first inductee into the Lashings Hall of Fame. So we're talking about Richie just as a captain, as a man, your great friend. How would you sum up what Richie did for you guys as a captain?
Richie was the kind of captain that very, very easy to get along with, right? He hardly ever raises his voice. Excuse me. He hardly ever raises his voice. He'll get across his point in a solid, firm way without being aggressive or overly aggressive. You know, so with that, the players tend to try to go the extra mile for him, including myself, because there's never any animosity. He hardly ever, he's that kind of person. Very few times I've seen Richie get upset, very, very few. And we played together for many years, you know. So he had done a lot for West Indies cricket. You know, I enjoy playing with him. I mean, playing as a captain, yes, no issues. He has chucked me the ball, asked for what kind of feel I want, and because he trusts me and my ability, there's hardly any dialogue. He's just like, Ambi, what kind of feel you want? I said, X, Y, Z. He said, okay, no problem. And that's it, really. Every now and again, he asks if I'm okay, how am I doing, if I want any changes. Very, very, very easy to get along with. And with him being inducted as a first in the Lashings Hall of Fame, I think it's a tremendous honor for him, because I can recall he was there from the onset, from the very start. So that to me is a great honor for him, and just say to him, it's a great achievement.
Well, Curtly, love to talk to you all afternoon, but I know you have so much to do, and busy man, and you've got just looking at all your awards behind you and all your trophies behind you. So very, very successful along the way. Thank you ever so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And really, really crossing our fingers we can get you over here and be with us. We'll do lots of cricket and personal appearances and other fun we can have next summer. But for now, all the best, Sir Curtly Ambrose. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, David. I'm looking forward to it. Had a wonderful time last summer in 2019, and I'm looking forward to it again. You guys are so professional, in what you're doing, and that's one of the things that impressed me most. Your professionalism, and everything is so organized, and that I could fit into that system quite easily. So thanks very much, and hopefully if all goes well in summer of 2021, I'll be over there.
Thanks ever so much, Sir Curtly Ambrose.
Thank you.